Love, Power, and Morals in Ancient Egypt, The Untold Truth. When we think of ancient Egypt, we picture pyramids, pharaohs, and mummies. But behind the monuments was a society with surprising views on love, marriage, and morality. Let's step into that world, where royal incest was legal, women held serious power, and love letters weren't always from him to her, but often the other way around. Pharaohs didn't just rule Egypt, they owned it, and they weren't about to share. To keep the royal bloodline pure, they often married their sisters, and sometimes even their daughters. To us, this sounds disturbing. But to the Egyptians, it made political and spiritual sense. They believed the pharaoh was divine. His blood, therefore, was sacred. Mixing it with outsiders would weaken not just the family, but the kingdom. And it wasn't just a few rulers. By the 2nd century AD, studies show that in cities like Arsinoe, 2/3 of marriages were between siblings. The role of women, rights most model. Egypt was one of the very few ancient civilizations where women enjoyed near equal rights to men. They could own property, file for divorce, and sign contracts, inherit land, and even Greek travelers were shocked. In their culture, women were kept out of public life. But in Egypt, women walked the streets freely, ran businesses, and negotiated deals. There's even a will from the 3rd dynasty showing a woman named Nebsent passing down her estate to her children in her own name. Marriage and monogamy for the common people. Now, while pharaohs kept massive harems, often filled with daughters of nobles and foreign rulers, the average Egyptian lived quite differently. Most commoners practiced monogamy. Marriage was based on companionship and shared responsibilities. Family life was stable, divorce was rare, and both partners had rights. If a man divorced his wife without cause, he had to give her a fair share of the family property. The position of the wife was powerful, especially because most property passed through the female line. Marrying your sister wasn't romantic, it was strategic. It meant keeping wealth inside the family. Love, sex, and courtship, the Egyptian way. Here's something wild. In ancient Egyptian love poetry, the terms brother and sister were often used like we say boyfriend and girlfriend. Women frequently took the lead in love. They wrote letters, initiated relationships, and even proposed marriage. Here's a line from one ancient letter. "Oh, my beautiful friend, my desire is to become, as thy wife, the mistress of all thy possessions." And they didn't shy away from talking about sex. Their temples and tombs include open depictions of erotic scenes. Even in the afterlife, some Egyptians were buried with love poems and adult literature. Morality, warnings, and wisdom. Egyptian society wasn't without moral teachings. They had their share of cautionary tales and parental warnings. One text warns men, "Beware of the woman from abroad. She is like the vortex of deep waters." And yet they also offered beautiful, heartfelt advice, like this message from a father to his son. "If you love your wife, fill her stomach and clothe her back, for she is a field profitable to its owner." Mothers, too, were deeply honored. Decline of women's power and legacy. Over time, as Egypt shifted from farming villages to empire and warfare, the influence of women declined. Greek and Roman customs slowly replaced Egypt's matriarchal traditions. Divorce became a right for men only. Property rights faded. But among the common people, matriarchal values held on. Egypt's legacy, especially its treatment of women, remains one of the most progressive chapters in ancient history. Ancient Egypt wasn't perfect, but it was a civilization where women could rule, love was direct, and morality was defined on its own terms. If you found this fascinating, subscribe for more untold stories from history.